In the quiet heart of Wichita, Kansas, where the flat plains stretch endlessly beneath soft amber skies, life once moved at a gentle suburban rhythm. Yet within that peaceful landscape, something dark was stirring unseen and patient. It was a darkness that would one day be known by three chilling letters. BTK. Those letters stood for bind, torture, kill. A name whispered decades later with dread and disbelief. A name whispered in fear by those who remembered the horrors that haunted the 1970s. And a name that would one day be exposed not by bullets, not by witness confessions, but by something as small and mundane as a floppy disk. But in the beginning, no one suspected that evil could live behind such ordinary eyes. To neighbors, he was the man who waved from his lawn, spoke kindly at church, and worked diligently at his city compliance job. To his family, he was a father, a husband, a quiet man who kept routines like clockwork. But behind that calm exterior, Rader's inner world was twisted with fantasies of control and domination. He carefully built two identities, one admired by his community, the other ruled by obsession. It all began in 1974, when Wichita awoke to a horror that shattered its sense of safety. The Otero family had been found dead in their home, each life taken with precision and cruelty unseen before in the city. Investigators were baffled. There was no sign of robbery, no clear motive, only deliberate control. The newspapers called it a tragedy, unaware it was the opening act of a nightmare. Months later, a letter arrived at a local TV station, typed neatly and filled with details only the killer could know. At the bottom, three bold letters, BTK. From that day on, the name became a shadow over Kansas. Dennis Rader continued his life in plain sight. Church meetings, office paperwork, backyard chores, all while hiding his secret hunger. Each time the media spoke of BTK, he felt powerful, invisible, almost godlike. He began sending more letters to newspapers, to police, to libraries, mocking investigators who chased ghosts. The city lived in fear, families locking doors, parents walking children to school in silence. Yet the killer seemed to vanish, disappearing for years at a time. Decades passed, detectives retired, files gathered dust, and Wichita tried to forget. But Dennis Rader never truly stopped thinking about his crimes. By 2004, technology had changed the world. The internet, DNA analysis, digital forensics. But Rader's ego hadn't changed at all that year. Something inside him reawakened, a craving for recognition long denied. He began sending packages again, clues, photos, and items taken from his victims decades earlier. The city's old fear returned overnight, headlines screaming, "Is BTK back?" But this time, he wasn't facing the 1970s police. He was facing digital detectives armed with new tools. Still, Rader believed he could outsmart them, confident in his cleverness. In one letter, he asked investigators if floppy disks could be traced. The police publicly replied that they could not, a strategic lie meant to lure him in, believing he was still untouchable. Rader sent them a purple floppy disk. On that disk was a Word document saved from Christ Lutheran Church. Hidden within the data was a single clue, the name Dennis. In the church location, investigators traced it straight to Dennis Rader, church president and longtime member. They now had a suspect, but they needed proof. Quietly, they obtained a DNA sample from his daughter's medical records. When compared with DNA from old crime scenes, it was an exact match. The 30-year hunt was over. On February 25, 2005, police surrounded Rader's vehicle and made the arrest. The man who had lived unnoticed among them for decades was finally caught. News cameras captured his stunned expression, a mixture of disbelief and fading arrogance. Neighbors wept. Church members stood frozen in shock. How could the man who spoke of faith and family on Sundays be the same monster from their nightmares? During interrogation, Rader confessed everything in calm, methodical detail. As though reading from a diary, he showed no remorse, only irritation when media accounts failed to match his version. He called his crimes projects, each one carefully planned, each one feeding his desire for control. When asked why he resumed contact, he said he wanted the world to remember his name. He never realized that pride, not justice, would be his downfall. The very technology he thought he could manipulate exposed him completely. In court, he listened as the judge sentenced him to 10 consecutive life terms without parole. Families of victims wept quietly. Their long-delayed justice finally delivered. Outside, reporters announced the end of Wichita's darkest chapter. Yet there was a strange poetic irony in how he was caught. The small piece of forgotten technology, a floppy disk, had undone 3 decades of deception. In the end, it wasn't a gun, a chase, or a witness that brought him down. It was data. Every secret leaves a trace, every act a shadow in the digital age. And the man who prided himself on meticulous planning forgot that nothing ever truly disappears. Today, when people study the BTK case, they see not only his evil but his arrogance. The belief that he was smarter than everyone else led him straight to his own capture. Decades later, his story remains a warning about deception hidden in plain sight. Evil can wear a father's smile, a neighbor's wave, or a church leader's prayer, but truth, no matter how long it sleeps, always finds a way to rise. Sometimes it comes in the smallest clue, a word in a file, a trace of DNA, or a name hidden in code. And as the camera fades out on this chilling chapter of true crime history, justice stands quietly victorious. For in the end, a simple floppy disk spoke louder than 30 years of silence. And to those listening, watching, or reading this story, remember that even in the quietest towns, the truth endures. So if you found this story chilling, fascinating, or a lesson in pride and downfall, subscribe for more tales where justice always finds its voice.